Okay. Number one, find the inverse of the one-to-one function. Okay, so there are just a few steps to finding the inverse. They involve things that we know how to do. So when you want to find the inverse of a function, you want to, first of all, set y equal to the function. In this case, the function is 5x plus 2 over 4. And so you would set y equal to 5x plus 2 over 4. We want to find the inverse relation. And so that means a couple of things. That means that at some point we want to get x in terms of y, right? And so we'll get, yes, x in terms of y. So the second thing we'll do is that we will solve for x. I used to switch the x's and y's, but I'll wait until the end to do that. So we solve for x. And if you solve for x, that means we need to get x by itself. There's a 4 here that we are currently dividing by. To get rid of this 4, we need to do the opposite of dividing and multiply both sides by 4. So 4y is equal to 5x plus 2. And then we're going to continue solving for x. Beat me to the answer if you can. To get x by itself, we would subtract 2 on both sides. 4y minus 2 is equal to 5x. We're trying to get x by itself. We're currently multiplying by 5. To get rid of this 5, we would have to divide both sides by 5. 4y minus 2 over 5 is equal to x. And then the final step is that because we're asking for the inverse relation, that means we need to switch the x and y values. And so now switching them gives you that 4x minus 2 over 5 is equal to y, and this is the inverse.
So these first 6 problems have to be shown on the.
Now, I want to be clear that I did not say it was the first 6 problems. Someone else said that. However, absolutely correct she may be, I did not say that they were the first 6 problems. So.
Oh, I wasn't supposed to say
No.
I didn't hear a thing.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, I'm gonna copy this problem because we'll do this one in a second. The other thing I'm going to let you know is that for this particular document, I have given the ID number in the study plan so that you can go and practice problems like this. So 2.7-6, I don't know what the student view is, but it does mean chapter 2, section 7. It's probably problem number 6.
2.76.
Yeah, so it's chapter 2, section 7, and I think 6 means it's the 6th problem. If you go in the study plan, I think if you go to the study plan, you will find that problem. Right? That's way too much information. Go ahead. That's just terminology. Yeah. Don't worry about that terminology. It just means that's what the inverse is. Yeah. Yeah. All right, I got 23 of these to go through. So this means that what I want to do is I want to get this in video form so we can go back and look at it. Right, so Julie's here to take questions on these directly, but I do want to move on this. So yeah, get it down quick. Okay.
I don't get it.
Then we'll go back to it, but this is the pace we need to go. Okay, so we've got to, yeah. So you can always start this later. The due date is December the 10th.
The final exam?
No, but the due date for this particular assignment. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll talk about that in a moment. I'll talk about, stuff because the grades are due on the 11th. So I'm going to have everything due on the 10th. I mean, I can have it all due before the 5th.
No.
Right. Right.
Please.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's a function. A equals, so this is stuff on the most recent material for us in my class. So this models the amount in pounds of a particular radioactive material stored in a concrete vault, where X is the number of years since the material was put into the vault. If 600 pounds of the material are placed in the vault, how much time will need to pass for only 172 pounds to remain? Round to the nearest whole number. Right, so we'll take a deep breath and say we can do this, right? And then we'll start to make some remarks about what some of these letters have to be. Okay, so this here is the original amount. And so that's what the 0 indicates, that was at the 0th hour, that's how much was in there. And this is the amount after X units of time. And in this case, X is in years. Okay. What this question is trying to say is, what is X? How much time, so they're looking for X, right? How much time will be needed to pass for only 172 pounds to remain? So they want A to be 172 when this is 600. They want you to solve an equation, not surprisingly. And the equation is 600 equals, 600e to the 0.01386x is equal to 172. We need to solve that. This is related to the last homework assignment that I've opened. We want to get X by itself. We're going to divide both sides by 600 first, and then we're going to apply something called the natural log to both sides. This is a pure calculated problem after you get X by itself. We're going to go through the steps on this. Number one, we'll divide by 600. So divide by 600 on both sides. That means that e to the negative 0.01386x is equal to 172 over 600. You then need to apply the natural log to both sides. So then, I'll use a different color. So it's the natural log of e to the negative 0.01386x is equal to the natural log. So the natural log function is in your calculator, and we're going to have to use it in just a moment. The crucial remark here is that the natural log and the exponential cancel. That is precisely the reason why we brought it on that side. And so they cancel. And so we're left with negative 0.01386x is equal to the natural log of 172 over 600. We're solving for x. We have this nasty letter. We have this last nasty number in front of the x. It's currently multiplying. To get rid of it, we'll divide both sides by that number. And x is that ugly thing. And then we're required to put this in our calculator. And this is as good a time to practice as any. How we put this number into the calculator. X is the natural log of 172 over 600 over negative 0.01386. And in the TI calculator, we're talking about putting in ln parentheses 172/600 close parentheses negative 0.01386. Let's see if I have a calculator for this. Natural log 172 divided by 600 divided by negative 0.01386. 90.14. Is that a choice? C. Excellent.
You just got 90.
They went around to the nearest year.
Do you mind going up?
Absolutely. Thank you. How far up?
Right here.
Okay. I can just zoom out if someone wants to see the whole page. Yeah. Oh yeah, did you have to make them? I don't know what happened. So, tell me what you did. Where's Ellen?
Oh, y'all can do it. Oh, you sure? Yeah.
Ellen, right? So yeah, that's the Ellen that I'm using. There's a little Ellen there. So it's this.
Thank you.
And then you put 106 divided by 300. And then you can do divided by, and again, use parentheses. Negative 0.06. So you need to add another 0 there. Are we good? All right. I got 90. It was 90. It's LN, yeah. Again, the ID for that is 4.5-4. If you go into study plan, you can practice that. I have to move on. Number 3, f of x is equal to x squared minus 3. They want to know what is f of x minus 3. That means you need to go in, wherever there's an x, you put x minus 3, and then they want you to simplify. We'll FOIL this out, simplify, and get one of these choices. X minus 3 times x minus 3 is equal to, we'll FOIL, x times x is x squared, x times minus 3 is minus 3x, negative 3 times x is another minus 3x, and then negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9, and then I had a minus 3 that was sitting there. Thank you. Foil. And it looks like D. Right, so all we're doing is replacing that x and putting in x minus 3. Yeah, so the original, thank you. I don't know why I'm using that. The original function was x squared minus 3, and so it's like this x gets, in place of it, you put x minus 3. X squared minus 6x plus 9 minus 3, x squared minus 6x plus 6. For me, the answer is D. Where? Sorry? Yeah, so here, the foiling process, x times x, x squared, x times minus 3, minus 3x, minus 3 times x, minus 3x, minus 3 times 3, positive 9. Yep.
The 9? This is number.
It's number 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the equation? It's x squared minus 3, so you have to include that one. That's when you foil it. So you foil x minus 4.
Oh, the 6 is, there's a 9 and then there's a minus 3. 9 minus 3 is 6.
9 minus 3 is 6.
Because there was a minus 3 that was there from the beginning.
So you just combine these.
Yeah, you combine the 9 and the 3 and you get 6.
And then you get this. And then combine these.
Number 4. Find the equation of the line given 2 points. You're given the point 2, negative 4. The other point you're given is that the x-intercept is negative 2. That's the point that they're trying to hide. That's the point negative 2, comma 0. The x-intercept is the point negative 2, comma 0. So we know how to deal with lines pretty well, right? So you need a point. You need the slope. So the formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So that's the point slope form for a line. We're going to use the point 2 comma negative 4. So x1 is 2, y1 is negative 4. And so we have the point. We need the slope. Well, we know that the slope is the difference in the y coordinates divided by the difference in the x coordinates. And so for us, that is 0 minus negative 4 divided by negative 2 minus 2. The difference in the x, y coordinates divided by the difference in the x coordinates. That's going to give us a slope of negative 1. And then we'll write the line. All calculator if necessary. 4 over negative 4, the slope is negative 1. And so we're ready to write the formula. Y minus negative 4 equals the slope, negative 1 times x minus the x coordinate was 2. Y plus 4 equals negative 1 times x minus 2. That's either A or B for me. You can then go ahead and solve on Monday. That is perfectly okay if you write that for me in my class. Other people want us to solve for y. You can go ahead and do that. Distribute the -1, negative x, plus 2. Right, so distribute the negative sign, changing both signs, and solve for y. Subtract 4. Y equals negative x. -2 minus 4 is -2. You can write it like that. My MATLAB here has gotten a little bit ridiculous. This is also -1. If you factor out a -1, it's that. And so that answer is B.
Yep.
Again, I have to apologize for the pace, the 20 of these. So we've got to, we won't get through all of them if we don't pick up the pace a little bit. Finding the equation of a line given 2 points. We did a bunch of these.
That is 2.3.
2.3-10. If you go in the study plan,
3-10.
2.3-10 in the study plan. I don't even remember saying this. This is on here? Quadratic equation? No, this is just factoring? Yes, it is. 8x squared minus 31x equals 4. Solve for x.
Okay.
8x squared minus 31x minus 4 is equal to 0. We need to factor this. So we need to set up 2 sets of parentheses. This is hard. We need a -31 in the middle. So you need to pick the factors of 8 and 4 that when you multiply one pair of factors and add it to the product to the other 2 factors multiply, you get -31 in the middle. Right? So what makes this hard is that you have to try. That means you could be trying a lot of different things. But one thing you should observe is that 8 times -4 already gives you -32. Right. What's that?
Can I say something?
Please.
You know, these are probably all the same type of problems. They're just different numbers. Okay? You know what I mean? So when he takes that 8 and he takes that 4, that's the same thing that you could do. Take a 7 and take the other.
Well, and then, yeah, that's right. And then the other thing, as I pause this, the other thing, the numbers here have to multiply and give you 4. I could have put 2 and 2, but 2 and 2 don't work. So then you set each thing equal to 0. The answer is D. So then 8x equals -1. Subtract 1 on both sides. Divide by 8. X is -1/8. Or on this side, you would add 4 to both sides. 4 comma negative 1/8 is D.
I know you can use calculators for the final.
The 6 problems that these might encompass, you are not allowed to use a calculator.
Oh, you're not?
Yeah, that is right. That's right. I got that in the email. That's right.
Oh, okay.
So everyone's been instructed to get no calculators for.
Yeah.
So this is a great question. So now,
Yeah.
this is good. So where, in the first 6 questions, where did you feel like you needed a calculator?
For factory.
Oh, wait, no, actually, really don't.
Yeah, but he just showed you, he just told you a tip about the one that he just factored.
So yeah, but again, if you go to 1.5-3, you'll see all of them in your study plan. So yeah, you won't, I don't think you're gonna need a calculator.
Are you sure?
Now,
I'm
if you
not good
see
with
every
numbers,
possible,
so-
you got a week to see every
I do.
possibility.
Basically,
Never
it's
mind.
saying, it's
Good,
like,
yeah.
work
I got
out
it.
how if you get it when you come.
And y'all have one.
Who?
Their final is next Friday.
What are yours?
Ours is Tuesday,
Tuesday.
Like this. Like
the 5th.
a week from today.
Yeah, ours is the 5th.
A week from today.
Yeah.
At 2 o'clock.
Yeah. I sent out an email about this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not crazy. Okay, I'm just making sure.
Wait, you did?
I did. Yeah, that's right.
Look, I've been
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving break, you. I'm not
Yeah.
focused on that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh no worries, no worries. Okay, we gotta go. Number 6. Exponential functions look like this. So this is 3 to the x. At 1 it should actually be 3. So I just drew this badly.
How much is the final for your grade? Is it regular final for the grade? How much
Yeah.
is the final?
So just like a
It should be worth 200 points. But it's half test, half homework. We're gonna take the average of the tests, the average of the homework. Right, so each one is worth 50% of your grade. So if your average for the test is 80, then you're gonna get 40 points for the test. If it's 100 for the homework, you're gonna get 50 points for your test. 50 plus 40 is 90. So at the end of this, we can talk about what you need and all of that stuff. But, yeah. Look at your average grade for the homework and the average grade for the tests, and add those things together. I'm going to graph the exponential function. F of x is equal to 3 to the x. So at 0 it's 1. At 1 is 3 to the first, which is 3. And then it looks like this. At 2 it's 9. So you may just want to plot 3 of these points, right? So x, 3 to the x. At 0 it's 3 to the 0, which is 1. At 1 it's 3 to the first, which is 3. And at 2 it's 3 to the second, which is 9. Right? So that's the graph. The other graph, 3 to the x plus 6, moves this graph 6 units up. That's right. 6 units up. So then if you were to graph a new one, you would just shift that graph up 6 units. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then, and then, like that. it's 7 and so forth. Okay. Questions about that? The speaker asked to grab both of them.
Well, that's good for them.
Yeah, they just want you to know the graphs. All right, you need to be dialed in the whole time. Yeah, this does not take any problems off, right? So we're trying to just do this.
You didn't finish number 6. You didn't finish number 6.
Right, and so if I didn't, that means you're not going to be asked it. Right?
So we have to do it? Oh, it says based on my paper.
Oh, you mean for this thing here? I mean for the thing that I gave in class? So the y asymptote is y equals 6. The domain's the whole real line. The range is 6 to infinity.
If it's a negative, or if it was 3x minus 6, something negative 6.
That's right. All right. We talked about logs. The definition is that the log is the power. So 3 to the second power is equal to x plus 4. Three to the second power equals x plus 4. Or in other words, 9 is equal to x plus 4. X is 5. I'm sorry. F of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 8. The vertex is at negative b over 2a. A is 1, b is negative 6, c is 8. The x-coordinate of the vertex is at negative b over 2a, which is equal to negative 6 over 2 times 1. So that's the x-coordinate of the vertex. 6 over 2, the x-coordinate of the vertex is 3. To find the y-coordinate, we'll plug in 3 for x into f. You need f of 3. F of 3 is 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 8. 9 minus 18 plus 8 is negative 1. The vertex is 3 comma negative 1. I'm sorry? Yeah, sure. How far? Higher? Here?
Right here, stop.
Okay. Can you imagine if I just lectured everybody?
How close?
Wonder how much they learn.
No, I know. Zoom in.
Thank you.
Yep.
Please go down.
All right, I know. Okay. Vertex is 3, -1. 3, -1 is there. The axis of symmetry is x equals 3. The domain's the whole real line. The y-intercept is 8. So here's one point, that one, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's another point. Thing looks like that. That is badly drawn. The range, -1, the y-coordinate of the vertex, all the way up. There. Number 9. We're factoring. We're solving an inequality, but we'll need to factor in order to do it. It's x cubed plus 2x squared minus x minus 2. And here we're going to factor by grouping. All right, so we'll notice that they both have x squared in common. Here, they both have a -1 in common. We did factor by grouping some time ago. And then we'll notice that they both have x plus 2 in common. And then we can factor one more time, and this is x plus 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. So that's really bad. Okay. So this is really asking, when is x plus 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1 bigger than 0? To do this, you'll need to create a number line with -2, -1, and +1. And pick values in each one of these places, right? So x equal to -10, x equal to -1.5, x equal to 0, x equal to 50. Right? And you need to check the sign of each one of these things. So you're going to put in 50 into each one of these things here and see if you get a positive number. And you do. 50 plus 2 times 50 plus 1 times 50 minus 1, that's all positive. If you plug in 0, 0 plus 2 times 0 plus 1 times 0 minus 1 is a positive times a positive times a negative. It is not positive here. If you put in negative 1.5, you get a 0.5 times a negative 0.5 times a negative 2.5, which is a positive times a negative, and that is a positive. And then if you put in negative 10, you get a negative times a negative times a negative, which is negative. But I only want the places where you're greater than 0. So it's those two places. All the numbers between negative 2 and negative 1, and all the numbers bigger than 1.
Yeah.
3.6, 14. Here we have a polynomial of higher degree. F of x is equal to x to the 4th minus 36x squared. And so here we'll factor out x squared. You're left with x squared minus 36. And then we'll factor x squared, x minus 6, x plus 6. Since the degree of this polynomial is 4 and 4 is even, and the coefficient is 1, which is positive, this function rises to the left and rises to the right. D. I have factored this not just for fun, but because I'm answering B. We need to find where this equals 0. X squared times x minus 6 times x plus 6 equals 0 means that either x squared is 0, x minus 6 is 0, or x plus 6 is 0, in which case x is flat out 0, or x is 6, or x is negative 6. For polynomials, there are only two ways to hit the x-axis. Either you're going to go straight across the x-axis, that means crossing it, or you might come down, touch it for just a second, and then turn back. The two ways to hit the x-axis. Okay. So ones that turn back look like x squared, and they're called even multiplicity. Ones that cross are odd multiplicity. You can tell which ones are which at this step. Because this is a 2, this is of even multiplicity, and this will turn back. This will turn around. 0 is the answer to this one, simply because it appears an even number of times. The power on this term here is 1, and 1 is odd, and so this one is going to 6 is going to flat out cross through. The function crosses through the x-axis at 6, and for the same reason, it's going to cross through the x-axis at -6, because that's wrong. F of 0, you plug in 0 for the function. Function is x to the 4th minus 36x squared. 0 to the 4th minus 36 times 0 squared is a big fat 0. All the powers are even. It's even since all the powers are even. If all the powers were odd, it would be odd. If you had some even powers and some odd powers, it would be neither. Only one of these functions seems to go across the x-axis at 6, -6, and 0. That's problem 3.243.
Can you zoom out?
Absolutely, I can scroll up or zoom out.
Zoom out.
Zoom out, thank you.
Just a little.
Vertical asymptotes. Set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. The denominator for us is x times x plus 8. So when you're looking for vertical asymptotes, just set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. That's it. That's 11.
What is it? Let's show. I can't see.
Oh, so thank you. So let's zoom in a little bit. So this function here is x plus 3 over x times x plus 8. And so I took that denominator, set it equal to 0 to find where there might be some problems for this function. And it's at 0 and -8. And that's where the vertical asymptotes are. So that was pretty straightforward. There's the ID for it and the study plan. when you want to solve linear systems, you'll find that in solving them, you really don't need to play with the letters. You can just play with the coefficients, and this is what that wants to mimic. The most important thing is to really be okay with the terminology. Write the augmented matrix of the system of linear equations. Let's translate this into the street version. Write the coefficients. And coefficient is not a street word, but write the numbers in front of the letters in the matrix. This column here represents the coefficients of x. This column represents the coefficients of y. This column represents the coefficients of z. That bar represents the equal sign. And this represents the column with the right-hand side numbers. 5, 4, 1, 6, 8, -4. Fill in the other ones. One. What is it?
6.
No.
Negative.
-6.
Negative.
-6.
9.
9.
Negative 1.
-1.
Negative 9.
-9. This one?
1. Would it be 0? Or 1? 0. 1.
It's not 1.
What are you on the y, right?
It's -1.
Oh. 1. 16. -2. 0. 1. 5. -6.
That's all you have to do on those problems.
That's it. That's it. That's it. I put a few more to test it out. Oh. Wait, what's going on? Oh, okay. Say it again. I believe it's 23. Fourteen's the same.
3.
Oh, I'm not doing it. 13, 14, go ahead, and then 15, we're rolling backwards the other way. This is the x, y, z. This first equation is 3x, there is no y, plus 7z equals -14. There is no x in the second equation, so there's a y minus 2z equals 13, and then the last equation is 7x plus 5y, and there's no z, and it equals 8. Right? So that the columns represent the coefficients of x. Y and z respectively. So 3x plus 7z equals -14. Y minus 2z equals 13, and then 7x plus 5y equals 8. 7x plus 5y. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. 7x plus 5y equals 8. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k is the standard form for a parabola. And so we just need to fill this in, but where h and k represent the vertex. So we need a, we need h, and we need k. What is a in this case? A is the number, a is the coefficient of x squared. So a for us is what number? A is 5. What's h? That's right, it's the x coordinate, which is, what's the x coordinate of the point 2, 6? 2, and k is 6. G of x equals 5 parentheses x minus 5, I'm sorry, x minus 2 squared plus 6. I'll leave 17 to you. It's the same thing. All right, we want to solve for x here. Find the values to make the denominator 0, then solve for the equation. So set the denominators equal to 0. So 5x minus 5 is equal to 0. 5x equals 5. Divide both sides by 5. X is equal to 1. So you definitely don't want x equal to 1. So for me, it's either A or D. Okay. So when you solve this for 18, you want to multiply by 5x minus 5. Right? Or in this case, it's 5 times x minus 1. So let me go ahead and do this. 10 over 5 times x minus 1. Plus 1 over 5 equals 2 over x minus 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to multiply everything by that common denominator. So 5 times x minus 1 times this, 5 times x minus 1, and then 5 times x minus 1. Okay. Why are we doing that? We're doing that because that's going to allow us to cancel. So this cancels with this 5 cancels, we're just left with 10 there. That 5 and that 5 cancels, that leaves us with x plus 1, and then this x minus 1 cancels, that leaves us with 10. Questions about this? This is a minus 1, right? And so here, when you solve this, you get x plus 9 equals 10. Strike 9 on both sides. You get that x equals 1. But we said originally that x can't be 1. And therefore, x can't be 1, and there is no solution. Yeah. $19 will do some substitution. I'll need to just take that. We got two equations, two unknowns, substitution method. X plus y is equal to 8, but we also know that y is equal to x squared minus 4x plus 4. From this, we'll use this to say immediately that, oh, this means that y is equal to 8 minus x. We'll then take that, the game plan being to take this thing and plug it there. And then this equation will involve only x, and we can solve for x. Okay, so now what was y equals x squared minus 4x plus 4 gets transformed by replacing this y with 8 minus x is equal to x squared minus 4x plus 4. We'll get all the x's on one side, and then we'll factor. So that's just substituting one equation into the other. Let's move everything to the right. This means that x squared minus 5x, I'm sorry, x squared minus 3x I'm going to add x to both sides. And I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides. That leaves me with nothing over here is equal to x squared minus 3x minus 4. Factor. Factors of 4 that are 3 apart are 4 and 1. This means x is 4 or x is negative 1. This was an equation involving two variables, so it seems like we have some x values. You go back and get the y values for each particular x. So when x is 4, what information that we have? They add up to 8. Since x plus y is equal to 8, y is also equal to 4. One point we should check is 4, 4. When x is negative 1, since x plus y is 8, y has to be 9. So the other point is minus 1, 9. Just checking the y values once you get getting near the end. Word problem. Using the substitution method. This problem is nearly word for word what you might see. The Family Fine Arts Center charges $22 per adult and $10 per senior citizen for its performances. On a weekend evening, when 535 people paid admission, the total receipts were $7,042. How many who paid were senior citizens? And so we'll label X is senior citizens. And Y is going to be adults. Okay. The two things we don't know. That must mean there must be two equations. Here's one, just about the total people. And here's another one about the amount of money. So we need an equation about people, and then we need an equation about money. The equation about people says that 535 of those people were there, and that those people are comprised of adults and senior citizens. X plus Y is 535. And the other equation is, well, this is how much money was made, and this came from $10 for all of those old people and $22 for every adult. We're looking for X. We're looking for X. This is called the elimination method. We could use the substitution method, but I think we're going to use the elimination method in just a second. So the elimination method says that it would be nice if we could just add these two equations and cancel out the letters, but that's hard to do. So what we'll do is we will eliminate the X and go back and get it. Right? So you get to multiply this by any number you want, and that number we're going to make -10. Right, so -10x minus 10y equals -5350. So I changed this equation. I changed the people equation for the purpose of now just adding these two equations. When I add them, something nice happens. The X gets eliminated, Y lives on its own. I need to solve for Y, divide both sides by 12. Y is 141, and oh my goodness, of course that choice is there. That's not what we were looking for. We were looking for X. X plus Y is 535. We just found out that Y was 141. Subtracting. X equals 394. A. Good. Let's motor. Alright, the log rules. This is one of the last things we talked about. We have the log of A over B is the log of A minus the log of B. And we know that all powers go in front. And we know that the square root power is the 1/2 power. So that if I wanted to break apart this, then I would notice that I am dividing. And so this means that I should be subtracting. So division turns into subtraction. And then this square root sign is just a power. And then I can pull this power in front. Okay. And then I'll make one final remark about this. The log is just the power. The power you raise 5 to get 125 is 3. C. So division turns into subtraction. Bring all the powers in front. Reduce. 4.3-18. Couple more. Average rate of change of a function is just f of the second number minus f of the first number over the difference between the two numbers. Here we have this function f of x is equal to x squared plus 6x. In this case, a is 5, b is 8. We're just basically finding the slope between these 2 points on the graph of f. I need f of 8. f of 8 is 8 squared plus 6 times 8. That is 64 plus 48, a very large 112. f of 5 is 5 squared plus 6 times 5. That is 25 plus 30. Together, that's 55. f of 8 minus f of 5 all over 8 minus 5. That's just the formula. 112 minus 55 all over 3. That's 57 over 3. The answer is 19. So the average rate of change is just that formula. Have a function, plug in 8, plug in 5, subtract, divide by the difference. Last problem on my final at least. Got two functions, find the composition. F of g of x. Put one function inside the other. It's 3 times g of x minus 2. But g of x is x plus 2 over 3. 3 times x plus 2 over 3 minus 2. 3's cancel. X plus 2 minus 2. The answer is x. And so that makes this x, this is x, that's 6, and that's 6. Okay, so we'll make that the recording. I will